Adam Rank, who's on your radar?
Well, I'm going to be looking at T. Higgins, and I know a lot of people might see this as just chasing the fantasy points, but this was somebody that we really liked coming into the season in an offense that we figured was going to throw the ball an awful lot. We might not have had an idea of what Zach Taylor wanted to do throwing the football-wise, but we've liked what we've seen. Now, I would pick him up. I wouldn't start him necessarily, even though he's got a good matchup this week against the Jags, but he is somebody that needs to be on your roster.
Someone else who is worth being on your roster, Devonta Freeman. No, it's not last year, or he's not in Atlanta. He's now a New York Giant. He did not see a lot of action against the 49ers. Remember, he just signed last week. He's available in about 42% of NFL.com leagues. Only 5 carries, 10 yards last week. However, next week against the Rams, in this decimated position where you could be in need of a running back, he could be considered against the Rams, who are generous to opposing running backs.
Yeah, I see Devonta Freeman's role expanding. Who else's role is expanding is Justin Jefferson there in Minnesota. He outstepped B.C. Johnson 49-5 in week 3. Those two had sort of been battling to be the wide receiver 2 in the Vikings offense. Now, Kirk Cousins historically has funneled targets mostly to his top 2 receivers. You go back to 2018 when both Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were healthy. They occupied more than 50% of the targets. And I expect that now, if Jefferson really is stepping up to be that second option, he's going to see a lot more opportunity in the very near future.
Now, the rookie Justin Jefferson is a true wide receiver too, but now I want to talk about the tight end position. Jimmy Graham, you guys, he's available in 87% of NFL.com leagues, and he's only being started in 5%. Now, those 5%, you should be pretty happy because he finished as the tight end 1 last week, 24 fantasy points against the Atlanta Falcons. He's had 3 touchdowns in 3 games this season, along with 7 red zone targets. That is the most on the Chicago Bear team, so get him on the waiver wire and then get him into your lineup.
Yeah, we were skeptical about Jimmy Graham at the start of the year. I think it's time to stop being skeptical and start believing right now. Hey, let's go around the horn right now and talk about our top 3 waiver wire options for the week. Adam Rank, start us off.
My top waiver wire option would be Justin Jefferson. I think that when he was coming into this league, we felt he was the most pro-ready because he was playing in Joe Brady's offense there in LSU. So that meant he was going to have an easy transition, but I also like T. Higgins, of course, and Brandon Ayuk for the upside coming out of Arizona State.
All right, I love all of those. Now, my first guy on the list is the one I just talked about. It is Jimmy Graham. Up next, I have Allen Lazard. We thought it was going to be an MVS type of offense, but it just so happens to be Allen Lazard. And then last but not least, it's the guy who's throwing to Jimmy Graham. It's Nick Foles.
Ooh, continuing with that tight end first, I really like Mo Alley Cox, the Indianapolis Colts. Their offense looks really good if you look at that final score, but remember, 2 of their scores were pick sixes. Mo Alley Cox is the guy you want to get from that Colts offense. Justin Jefferson, Marcus told you what you needed to know about him. And Myles Gaskin, I told you running back is a really tricky position. Just go get him, slide him in your lineup, and see what happens. You'll like it.
Well, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson as my number 1 option. I just talked about him a moment ago. Myles Gaskin, as you heard Cynthia mention, we're all in need of running backs across the fantasy landscape. And Brandon Ayuk is number 3. We saw the Niners use him in a multitude of ways, and you got to feel like Kyle Shanahan definitely has a plan for him going forward. All right, since we are adding, it means we also have to be subtracting. So Adam Rank, who's the guy that you are making waves with this week?
Well, I held on to Boston Scott probably for a little bit too long because everybody was roasting us for picking him up in the first week of the season, but he seems to be the most expendable. The Eagles offense is entirely frustrating, and I know that all the Eagles fans feel that, but as I'm looking to make some waves here, I'm going to have to drop Boston Scott and pick up one of those receivers I just mentioned.
I wanted to make Benny Snell a thing. I thought maybe he would be a thing, but I was completely wrong. 0.2 fantasy points in his last 2 games, not each. That's combined. That's not a good average in case you were into math like me. 11 touches in the last 2 games. Yeah, this is all reasons why you just want to look in the other direction despite his amazing stomach tattoo.
Stomach tattoo. Wow, that's something to keep in mind. Austin Hooper, I don't know if he has a stomach tattoo. I do know that he has not produced a whole lot. And I was skeptical that he would have a big year going to Cleveland, but I thought maybe with David Njoku out, that Hooper could get some more opportunities. It hasn't really worked out. Just 10 targets all year, 7 catches for 62 yards. The Browns offense has not done enough to really impress me and certainly has not done enough to make me consider keeping Austin Hooper on my roster.
Marcus, I'm going to go with another guy who plays in Ohio, but this time for the Bengals, it is A.J. Green. I'm really sad about this because I have him rostered, and he's rostered in 93% of NFL.com leagues, and a lot of us probably reached to grab him in the early to middle round of drafts, and we are sad about it because he's currently ranked the 69th wide receiver in fantasy football. Less than 11 fantasy points in every single game this season. He had 6 targets in week 3, which was a season low. So I know earlier we talked about T. Higgins. Looks like T. Higgins may be the guy, and AJ Green needs to fade.